PixelPoint offers inventory capability, and you'll find within the back office we have a pull-down menu for inventory. And within this, we're going to take a look at the first selection, which is stocked items. Now, a stock item is basically a recipe item or an inventory item, such as a slice of bread or a slice of cheese, a leaf of lettuce, whatever the case. And the way inventory works is that you set up each one of these different components within the stock item setup, and then in product setup, which we'll take a look at later on, you then apply them to the recipe. And then when that item is ordered, for example, let's say a hamburger, then the recipe for that hamburger may be a patty, a bun, maybe a slice of cheese, a slice of tomato, lettuce, or whatever the case. And the inventory will deplete from those stock items every time a hamburger is ordered. So that being said, we're going to start here with stock item setup. Now you'll see within here, for example, the first one that comes up here is bacon. And so what we're going to do is to take a look at the various fields and what they do within stock item setup. So the first one here is bacon as the description. Now you'll notice underneath this I got the 3 levels of measurement that apply to this bacon. So we offer 3 levels of measurement for this. The first one is unit, a unit description. What is a unit of bacon? And this is really what you want to match up with your recipes. Now obviously for bacon it's going to be an easy one, which should be a slice. Same with maybe cheese, for example. But when you get into things such as, let's say, tomatoes or onions, it could be a little more difficult because they may be provided in terms of slices or they may be in weighted ounces, for example. So it's really hard to determine which is the best way to do that. But that's up to you to really figure out the way you prefer to offer your description of unit for that. The next one is the next level up in terms of the quantity for this. In this case, it's container. Now, my slices of bacon are contained in a pack or a package. So when I pull out bacon from my refrigerator, for example, then I've got a pack of bacon. And from there, I would pull out a slice of bacon that would be applied to whatever recipe. The next level up is package. And so when I order my bacon from my supplier, more often than not, I would get this maybe in a box. So I would contact my supplier, give me a box of bacon, in which case then that would contain so many packs, which in turn those packs would contain so many slices. Now when you populate these, you'll notice that there's these little boxes down the right hand side, these buttons here with the 3 dots on them. And if you select on that, this will come up with a list of all of the different descriptions that you have applied as you go about programming in all these stock items. Now the nice thing about this is that you can reuse these same descriptions over and over rather than have to continually type in slice or ounce or whatever the case. The reason being is that this offers some continuity and some uniformity in the descriptions that you're applying to all of these stock items. Now with this information put in here, you will then notice that it starts to populate these descriptions down here. The first one is slice per pack. And so within this, when you populate it, the system now asks you how many slices are in a pack. I'm just going to populate this for a sec. So within this, you'll see the system is programmed so that within a pack of bacon, I get 30 slices. The next one down is how many packs are in a box. So when I order a box of bacon, how many packs are typically in it? And that would be 12. Now we have a field here that says price for box, and it's grayed out. Now the reason for this is because I have the stock boy agent running in the system, which means that the system is now activated to offer perpetual depletion of inventory. And so that being said, this field is grayed out. But if I was setting this up without having activated that, this field would be available, so I can put in an ideal cost for this. So for example, I typically pay $20 for a box of bacon, for example. You could put that in there, and from that it would calculate out your price per slice or your cost per unit. But because we're using the inventory system, then this field is grayed out and the price per slice or the cost per unit will be calculated based on the prices that you pay within your orders as they come in. The reason I used the edit button is because I wanted to make these fields available so we could take a good look at them. But typically, when you program these in, these fields, once they're put into place, they are locked in there. The reason being is that you can't really change them midstream because then that would skew all your numbers pertaining to the calculation of cost per unit. However, you can use this edit button so long as there is 0 quantity in stock for this item. Over to the right, we have report categories. So you assign your different inventory items to a report category. Reference number. You can set up any reference number in this. The system will assign one by default, but you can customize this if you'd like. Coming down below, we have reorder level, and you'll notice this shows as slice, which is meaning in units. Because the system is depleting in units, then this is where it's going to look for the quantity count on this. So what you want to determine here is, okay, when I come down to 300 slices in my inventory, then it's time to reorder for more. The par level is the ideal level to bring it up to. Right? So when I need to order more bacon, do I order 500, 5,000, 50,000? How many? And so the par level gives you an idea in terms of what level to bring that up to. Order by. When you typically order this, do you order it by the pack or by the box or by the slice? And so you can determine really on this what is the default order level to come up with. Over on the right hand side we have yield. Now within yield means how much of this actual item do I use? Is there any waste on this I might need to dispose of? For example, if you have an apple, you would not use the core. If you have a head of lettuce, you would not use the core of the lettuce, for example. So the yield on that would be what you use outside of that. Auto order. One of the functions within the inventory system is the ability to create an automated purchase order. So let's say, for example, that the system calculated out that you need to reorder, let's say 1.5 boxes of bacon. Within this, you can determine whether you want this automated purchase order to round it up to 2, round it down to 1, or leave it as showing as 1.5 boxes. On order is a field that is not currently used but is being set up for a future release. Coming down below, we have supplier. Now you can have multiple suppliers for any one of these things, and you can determine which one is your primary supplier. This is the default supplier for this. But you can choose on any one of them when you are ordering more of these items. Now I should also point out as well, if the packaging from the various suppliers is a little bit different. Okay, so for example, one supplier may have 10 boxes or 10 packs within a box, and another supplier may have 12 packs in a box. If that is the case, you do not need to order based on box. You can reduce it down to packs. And so that way you can match it up with whatever the packaging is for that given supplier. Coming over to the Advanced tab. The Advanced tab now allows you to determine how you want the inventory for this item depleted. Now anything basically food and beverage would be associated by recipe. However, there may be things such as by customer or maybe by check. For example, promotional items like a keychain, for example, or a toy. Also things as well, if you provide, for example, breath mints or toothpicks or something like that, then you can associate them maybe by customer or by check. The next one down is by day. If you select on this, this is really for places, for example, maybe you go to a restaurant and they offer newspapers for customers to read as they're having their coffee in the morning. So if this is the case, then you can select on this and determine what is the number of depletion units for that item. By employee shift. This is for things such as rubber gloves, hair nets, aprons, anything that's disposable but would be used on a per shift basis. Then they can be assigned within here. Exists in, and you define this within all warehouses, or you can define a specific warehouse if you have it broken down into multiple warehouses. Over on the right hand side we have, is this item taxable for any of the following taxes? Now within this you determine what taxes are applied when ordering bacon, for example. And within that you can determine, is this included within the cost? So that when you're setting together your purchase order, is the tax rolled into that or not? Coming down below that we have weight of slice, zero scale of pack, employee price per slice. Now obviously this makes no sense for bacon, but this does make sense if instead of bacon it was maybe vodka or whiskey or something like that, in which case these would be more along the line of weight of an ounce, zero scale of a bottle, employee price per ounce. So what this is, basically it pertains to liquor weighing. Okay, when you're working with a bar, for example, and you've got a partial bottle of liquor and you weigh that and you're trying to determine how much alcohol is in it, then the weight of an ounce, you can put that within there. The zero scale of the bottle is the tare weight of the bottle. What is the weight of an empty bottle? And the employee price per ounce, which would be, for example, like spillage and stuff like that. Over on the left-hand side, we have create recipe item, and you'll see this is grayed out. The reason being is that we haven't saved on this yet, and when you do, then create recipe item will be made available. Now, this is only used at the front end when you're applying this given item to post-inventory usage. Now, a typical example of post-inventory usage, for example, would be maybe like a buffet. Now, if you were doing manual depletion of buffet items, such as how many slices of meat, how many eggs, how many heads of lettuce did you use within this buffet, you would want all of those items to show up within there, but not necessarily all of your bar items, for example. So you would use create recipe items only for those that you want to show up within post inventory usage. Prep location and prep days. This is for catering type applications. So for example, a prep location may be prep location 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on number 1, for example, I may be making sandwiches. And if that is the case, I can assign bacon to prep location 1, in which case then when I'm doing, for example, my catering reports and my prep reports for all of these catering items, then you will have the bacon allocated to table number 1 where they're making maybe bacon sandwiches, for example. Or let's say, for example, let's suppose it was chicken. Okay, so within this, I'm making chicken salad sandwiches at prep station number 1. I've got 200 sandwiches to make. Well, now prep days would now come into effect. The reason being is that I've got all of my chicken sitting frozen in my refrigerator warehouse. And so what I need to do is I need to pull that quantity of chicken out, and I need to let it thaw for a certain length of time before I can actually use it for preparation. And if that is the case, then this is where prep days comes into effect. So if I've got, let's say I need to have 200 chicken salad sandwiches made 2 days from now, then I could put within here prep days of 2. 1 day to pull it out and let it thaw, and then the second day for the actual preparation itself. Sub-recipe. We'll come back to this shortly, but basically this is a recipe within a recipe. How to make. Within the how to make information, you can put in things within here in terms of how this particular item is put together or made. Again, this really pertains to sub-recipes, but you can do this for basically any stock item you've got. And along with that as well, you can put in an image of it. Now coming back to sub-recipe, obviously within the bacon, we don't really have anything that would pertain to that. But just taking a look at inventory, let's say for example, I've got special house sauce. Now this is a sauce, let's say for example, that my restaurant makes on its own. Okay, and I use ingredients within my inventory to come up with my special house sauce that I would apply to different recipes and so on. So again, within here, I've got my unit description of an ounce. Maybe I put these into jars when I make them. And when I do make them, I refer to it as a batch. So within this, I've got all of my different things put together. Now coming over to sub-recipe, you'll see within here what I've done is I've taken some stock items that I've got within my inventory here, and what I do is I put together what is the recipe for a batch of my special house sauce. And so in this I've got barbecue sauce, honey, and spices. I just made that up. But within any of this, this is how you go about applying it. And within it, you select on plus inventory item, you select on the desired inventory item, and then within there you would also enter in how many units go into that particular recipe for a batch. When there's someone who has to put this together, maybe they're not familiar in terms of, okay, what goes into the special sauce or how do you make it or anything like that, then we have the how to make information which can help them with that as well in terms of what do you do with these different ingredients and how do you go about making the special house sauce.